Welcome to Why Didn't You Tell Me? So this is a podcast that deals in nostalgia and education. So everything from how Henry VIII wasn't going to help us get mortgages and Pythagoras' theorem was actually never going to help us sort out tax. So this is an opportunity as young black men to look back on the things that we've learned and correct it, as well as inspire the generation to follow us. So with that being said, welcome to Why Didn't You Tell Me? Just before we start, I just want to introduce ourselves. So, my name is Thierry.
I go by the name of Felix Afrik.
I'm Tinashe.
And I guess together we are a very cool collective of young, black, talented men. And with that being said, I just want to start off with a quick cheers, fellas. Chin chin, welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Look at this guy. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Firstly, I said to this guy, yeah, let's come in looking cool. What is that on his head? No comment.
This podcast was brought to you by Northern Monk, a brewery from the north that make the sickest beers with the maddest flavours.
What we love most about Northern Monk is that they are community focused and bring positivity back to the north.
And that's why we've teamed up with Northern Monk to support our community. So support your local community and put your money where your mouth is and have a little faith. We're going to slowly get into it. So the structure of this is we're going to approach a few questions. So two main topics as well as some audience questions that are focused around the topic of today, which is alternative or different career paths. So with that being said, let's start off actually just by asking you guys how on earth you got here. So what is it that you do now and how did you get here? So Felix.
So it is very interesting. So I'm going through a transition right now. So I work as an international project officer right now. I'm transitioning into an international project manager. And just how I got here has been just an interesting journey. So in terms of education, I did my GCSEs. I didn't get that really good of grades, and what I just kind of got from there was I did my A-levels, and in my A-levels I did kind of a little bit worse than what I knew that I was capable of. But from there I went to Bradford University. I finished my degree in politics and peace studies, and then I went on to do a master's in media studies. Again, I didn't do too well in that, but I saw an opportunity for myself to kind of just develop even more. Throughout my years of university, I was involved in like student activities. So most people know me actually as a hype man of life.
Always. This guy, man, honestly, any party, any DJ, whether there's a live set, he was there.
In the job which I'm transitioning into right now is I'm going to be project managing a job and a project in Rwanda, where I still have a basis here in the UK. And I think just my whole journey has been a journey about discovering what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And the main passion of my life is young people.
Yeah.
And how young people can develop out of every single circumstance. I grew up in Birmingham, and even though I don't sound like a Brummie,
Thank God. I mean, shout out to my Brummies out there.
I love being a Brummie. It's the greatest thing in the world. But for me, that formation of that, growing up in Birmingham, then now growing up in the west of Yorkshire, is that it's given me that formulation to understand people from the south of England, but then the north of England, and then create projects which really encompass their growth. So I think, where I'm at right now is more understanding how I can uplift young people through project management, through different funding streams, but then also to give them opportunities as well. I think that's the most important thing for me, is that there's people who I grew up with who gave me opportunities to be on stage, to be, get work experience. And what I need to do now as a young person is give them the same opportunities.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And he calls himself young, but this man is a liar.
35.
I'm going to tell you right now. But in a similar vein, Tinashe, so tell us a little bit about your brief history.
Yeah, I think, in terms of unconventional career path, I've definitely done it all. Everything you can think of, I've been there, done that. So kind of, leaving sixth form college, went to university, studied medicinal chemistry. The aim was to kind of get into like medicine and
the classic black family career path.
Exactly.
We're going to be a doctor today. I'm telling you.
That's it. You know, but unfortunately, the way my grades were set up,
man can't facilitate that. You know.
Yeah, it didn't quite work out. So yeah, it didn't quite get the kind of grades I needed to kind of progress into that career straight away. And you know what? The feedback that I found most of the time from interviewing straight after uni was you needed kind of a placement year or an industrial year, but it's something that I really didn't think about, when I was looking at my sort of career development and my career path. So yeah, I got offered a job at Majestic Wine, so kind of working in the wine industry. So yeah, that was an eye opener, to be honest, because at that point I couldn't tell you the difference between red and white wine, which is mad because it's quite obvious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the headache, clearly.
I'll tell you later. But yeah, it was just like it was a really eye-opening experience in terms of like learning about different wines, different regions, where wines are made from, how champagne's made, and do you know what? It was a really good experience. And one of the feedbacks that I got from interviewing was try and get sales experience. And at that point, it was that job working as a salesperson in wine, So I thought 2 and 2 together. Do you know what I mean?
I love it.
It's a no-brainer, right? So yeah, kind of did that for a while, and then thought to myself, what's the next step? So got into recruitment, so oil and gas recruitment. Again, that was kind of
a twist and a half, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
From wine to oil and gas.
Exactly, you can see the link there. Yeah. So you can see from kind of going from, sort of wine merchant industry going to recruitment. That was again a different change of culture. It was working in the city in London, so the kind of experiences of actually being in the city and kind of working in the city, going out in the city, the hustle that's involved. That was quite interesting and eye-opening.
I bet.
Yeah, in terms of actually the exposure that role gave me, it was really, really diverse in the sense that I managed to kind of work in Asian markets, managed to work in American markets, worked in European markets. So really, it was the first time in my life really where I was kind of having that contact on a global scale. And I thought it really kind of, it really kind of taught me a lot of lessons. And it was a really kind of fast-paced, cutthroat environment. If you think kind of Wolf of Wall Street, there's a bell on the wall, ringing a bell, that sort of thing. It was that mad. Yeah, honestly.
Wow.
And then kind of moved on to, so the natural progression. I've always wanted to work within the medical industry. Natural progression was to use my sales experience and my business and commercial experience.
And your degree as well.
Yeah, and my degree, exactly, yeah.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that 40 grand paycheck.
Yeah, didn't quite pay that much.
So, your accent is not like mine. So, mine is probably predominantly down south, kind of London stuff. So, where did you grow up?
So, I've grown up everywhere. So, I've lived everywhere. I lived in Zimbabwe. Up until I was sort of 12, 13, and then moved to Leeds. That's where I know Thierry from. So we went to school together. Went to sixth form college together.
Yeah, Notre Dame, man.
Seems like ages
That's
ago,
where all the greatest were created. I don't know about you, Felix, but this is all the greatest were born.
That's it, and Notre Dame, it seems like ages ago. And then kind of went to Loughborough Uni, and then from Loughborough Uni moved to London, and then I'm back in the north, man.
This is it.
Yeah.
King of the North is back.
Home is home, do you know?
This is it. But
the North remembers now.
Yeah.
But that is. But I basically, ended up kind of using my kind of commercial experience within the wine industry and within recruitment to get a job in pharmaceutical sales. And that's where I am. I work in clinical nutrition. So what I do is basically I work with patients that haven't got a gut, so they can't actually eat processed food, and we provide intravenous feeds for them, basically that keeps them, keeps them alive. So it's a really fulfilling role, but you can see how I've had to kind of move around to get to the promised land.
No, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of my career kind of mirrors what you guys have done. So I went to a grammar school. I think I've done like 9 institutions by the time I'm actually finishing education, which is actually insane when you think about it. Jesus, collecting them. Imagine if I got like a Tesco stamp for that. I'll get so much stuff for free right now. Wait a minute, that's at least a free Costa coffee. And so I went to then Notre Dame College, and so then that's where I met Tinashe. I was a very average student. I always have been. God's honest truth, I've always been an average individual in that sense. But in terms of I never really stuck my head above the parapet. I went to Leeds University, studied biological sciences. Absolutely hated the course, loved the people.
Why did you study that course?
I studied the course because my parents were like, listen, big man, you need to be a doctor. And I said, I'm sorry, but my brain is not set up like that. I don't have the degrees or the capacity to be able to deliver that.
So that's interesting. Are your parents in the medical industry?
So my dad has multiple degrees and PhDs, and as you can imagine, with any African father, education is first and foremost in everything that we do. And so, yeah, absolutely. And my mum's a nurse as well. So, yeah, they're very well-established and well-achieved kind of people. And so, yeah, I went to university, and then I quickly realised this isn't for me. Then I did a master's in marketing. I did various jobs, bars, pubs, the lot, you name it, I did it. And then I quickly realised that actually marketing might be my thing. It's a mixture of the analytical mindset and people. And I think that's what I really didn't realise that was the thread throughout everything, because I've done degrees and all kinds of stuff and everything. And so, yeah, I quickly realised that was the thing to do. And here I am today. I'm the Data and Insights Manager at Rise at 7, the best digital agency in the country and soon to be the world. Mark my words. And so, yeah, so I guess in terms of that sense then, from a career perspective and kind of unconventional career paths, do you think that our parents... in fact, how much of an influence do you reckon our parents actually had on where we've ended up today?
To be honest with mine, I think it was the subtle way that they have done it.
Subtle? I was going to say, but the slippers weren't that subtle at my house.
It's like, obviously, I think all of us have... I came to the United Kingdom when I was 5, so I wasn't born here, but I've had so many opportunities here, which I'm really grateful for. And I think from my parents, it came more the perspective of Felix, Junior, do as best as you can, but it has to be excellent.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, do you remember you used to take your you take whatever report card or test that you had from that day to your parents and go, yo, your mum, I got 80%, and your dad would be like, listen, where's that rest of that 20? Huh? Did the 20 drop from when you left school to come home? Where did it go? I'm thinking, Dad, it's the top of the class, man. What are you talking about here? It's like, no. Top of the class is 100.
So it's really interesting, actually. My parents kind of led by example in the sense that, so my dad and my mum, when they moved over here, their qualifications were, I guess, void when they moved over.
Yeah, that's the same, man.
And basically they started kind of lower level jobs, sort of cleaning jobs, bus driving jobs, that sort of thing. And basically my parents went to uni whilst I was at school.
Isn't that mad, that graft? Even just us as men right now, they would have had all of us at the age we stand here today.
So I remember when my dad graduated, my mum did this thing where she was basically said that me and my brothers had to be present. We had to be there when we saw my dad walk on the stage and get his, his certificate. Yeah. And that was such a powerful moment for me, because it's the first time in my life I'd seen anyone in my family sort of graduate or, kind of achieve something in the education sector. So really, it was kind of, the bar was set so high. Yeah. There wasn't any other option really than to kind of, go to uni and try and get an academic degree. And my mum always worked within healthcare, so I think maybe that's where that influence was there. So it was all social care. She works as a as a physio at the moment. So it's those sort of things that influence
And so then, do you think that either of you, essentially, even all of us, do you reckon then that do you think we needed our degrees or the academic stamp of approval to get to where we were today? Or did we do it to appease our parents as whatever it may be, and then actually took our own alternative paths in the back route? Because what I'm listening to quite a lot of us say is going, I went and I studied this, but actually during my spare time, this was my hobby.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I mean.
I think for me, my first job actually was working in a prison. That was literally my introduction to the working world. I worked in prisons and young offender referral institutes. So imagine being 17, turning 18, and your first job is in prison.
I mean, that's a life lesson. Yeah. At least you know where not to return, at least. But so was that like work experience? Like what?
No, it wasn't. It came out of a kind of a weird situation. So I was heavily into the arts. So again, like I'd presume with all of us is that we had academic ability, but that was our passion. My passion was really like in theatre, especially musical theatre. So I did that for a couple of years, and then when I got my first job, is that someone referred me to say, Felix is very talented in this. And again, and I think what's the kind of kryptonite for young black people, but then young people as a whole, is to understand their talent as something which is ingrained in themselves from an early age, and something which they can work on. So when someone said that I was talented, I didn't believe I was talented. Yeah. But until I got into the role and saw that actually my talent could speak to other people, I was like, yo, actually I could do this. And I worked that job for like 4 years, so in between the transition of, you know, sixth form all the way to the end of university. And through that is that obviously I was studying whatever I was studying, and I was studying politics and peace studies. Yeah. And I remember distinctively, like I had a passion for theatre, and I wanted to be an actor, and that's what I wanted to embody. But at the back of my mind was my African parents saying, Junior, you need to have a good vocation.
Something to fall back on. And to an extent they were right, because I think a lot of man back then, we, given the opportunity, I do genuinely think a lot of us would have chose performing arts and things like that, but we'll get back onto that subject a little bit later. Yeah, man, like me and Tinashe used to throw it down, man, on stage. First time I ever met Tinashe, he was on stage performing, and honestly, it was absolutely incredible. But yeah, so lovely. So I guess that gives us kind of a taster as to where we've come from and where we've kind of got to. Questions from the public, right? For this section and this segment, we have 3 questions from the public, and what we're going to do is quick fire round. We're going to go around and basically answer how we think, feel, or other ways kind of have been brought up to think or feel. So, do you feel as young black men you have to be overqualified to be qualified? Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go first. Yeah. I think we do. The reason I say this is that multiple times I've seen myself apply for a job where they go, you don't have enough experience, but on paper, work-wise, yeah, absolutely, I do. It matches on par. And so then I think that there is a situation that arises in quite a lot of times, especially during recruitment, where I have to be substantially more overqualified than is necessary to be physically considered. Yeah? And so I don't know if any of you guys have ever had any experience with any of that kind of stuff.
I think for me, especially working like education, is that you need to be overqualified, but then your work experience needs to speak of your successes. And in the terms of successes, especially as a project manager, is winning bids. And where I've come from is that I haven't really had that experience, but I've had the experience of kind of creating stuff for myself. But that doesn't even still add weight to the basis of, have you won £1 million worth of bids?
Mad.
But then when I come across as saying, yo, look at me, I've got 3 degrees, I've got a BA.
Right, I feel like you just you really moved too quickly on that
real quick.
So let's wheel that up. Let's just pull up. So you got 3 degrees.
I've got 3 degrees.
Jesus.
So technically I'm working on my final one.
Yeah.
But it's still that emphasis of like, yo, I need to be so overqualified that I need to get to a manager position. Yeah. So in my current role, when I started beginning my masters already, knowing that if I wanted to be a project manager, I needed to have that academic basis to say, yo, look at me more than just what my work experience is. So I have 3 degrees in 3 different aspects. Mad. So I have a degree in politics and peace studies, and then I have a degree in media studies, and then I have a degree, almost completing now in marketing and management. All 3 different realms. Right. And I've made sure that the way I transition between all 3 of them is that I make a familiar line which says, I'm a sick marketer, I'm a sick person who knows how to do policy, I'm a sick person who can actually do management at the same time, but I'm one person with all that experience at 28.
Absolutely, because I reckon, Tinashe, I remember we were talking about something as well, similar to that, wasn't it, about marketing and...
Yeah, so I think my view of it is slightly different. I don't necessarily think you need to be overqualified. I think you need to be qualified in the right thing.
Yeah. Okay.
To get... So I'm going to put a twist in this.
Yeah, devil's advocate.
Yeah, I just think a lot of the times, you kind of go with the bandwagon and you do, either kind of a degree that maybe is not going to actually help you in terms of what you're trying to achieve, So what I think, going to the top of the podcast, which is why did no one tell me?
Yeah.
It's actually maybe if you want a position in management, are you doing a degree or a course in leadership?
Very true.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Very
are you
true.
doing a relevant skill to actually assist you in the roles? And I think that's where maybe the kind of differences are. So I don't think necessarily you need to be overqualified. And I certainly haven't had those experiences in the roles that I've been. It's probably that I haven't had the right qualifications to move into the desired industry.
Do you know what? You got me there. Do you know what? You've got me there. You got me there. Perfect. So now on to question 2, right? So if money was no object, what career path would you have taken?
I'm going to start with this one.
Go on.
So I think growing up, watching, some of my idols, I wanted to be a dancer. I think performing arts was definitely what I thought. Yeah, if money wasn't a thing, that's definitely what I wanted to do. But I think the older I got, and actually seeing the evolution of my parents, moving from one country to the other, and the change, and how all of a sudden all the qualifications or the kind of credentials were lost. It's a big reality check. It's really grounding. It's really humbling, and I think my values of security went higher up than my values.
But then also that speaks to our generation, because back then we weren't seeing people making money from dancing. Do you know what I mean? Now we've got the likes of Lyle Beniga, who is like the backing dancer for Justin Timberlake, and we've got and
twins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then we've got like the royal family in New Zealand, and the tours that they're doing and the things that they're doing with like Fenty and Rihanna and all that kind of stuff. And there's some real money to be made back then. Just what I mean. And so then I guess as soon as we say, is money no object, what would you do? We almost pick the bits that in our generation growing up we saw no financial output from, even though the passion was kind of there. So it's mad how it's then flipped and changed now. You know what I mean? And people are kind of making money from those, as you say, creative bits. But what about yourself, Felix? Money or no object?
Just to continue that little kind of a bit of conversation, I think what we've kind of done as a generation and as a time and as society as a whole is reimagined what we are. What is the basis of life? Is the basis of life to have security, or is it the basis of life to have passion and forward thinking ideas? And I think for myself, looking back at what I would have really wanted to get into, is that I would have first have said to be an actor, to be on stage and to have that money and that accolade and to have people looking at me. But I think the older that I've got and I've understood that a platform really kind of gives you the opportunity to show your flaws to the world more than show your best bits. So I think for me now, in that kind of forward thinking way, I'd want to be a presenter. I'd want to be a person who brings communities and cultures and people together to understand the differences in the world, but what is actually your passion?
I think
what makes you tick?
I think they overlap. I think now, like you said, because of the role models and actually the visibility of, having a career in the creative pathway, you can have security and passion together. So those two, I think there's a bit of overlap now.
Yeah,
and
there
I think
really is.
It's just having that, that visibility and seeing people, seeing that success. I think generally speaking, you don't do something unless you see some kind of template of success.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's no word of a lie. That's exactly why we're here today, in the sense of being like, we are a certain template that it may not fit everybody, but there might be that one person that looks at us and goes, "Oh my God, I'd love to do something that you guys did." And so, from my perspective, in the sense of, if money were no object, I would have actually looked into two things. I would have looked similar to Felix as well. I would have looked into TV presenting and becoming a presenter as well. I just think that the path around that, I felt like it was a little bit expensive in the sense of like I would have had to move to London at that time. The jobs were in London. Do you know what I mean? Like Channel 4 hadn't come to Leeds and things like that, and so there weren't those opportunities. Meant that you would have to give up that financial security in order to kind of pursue it. And then secondly, I would have pursued. You know what? I would have become a pilot. I've always wanted to become a pilot. Like. It sounds mad, but who's going to throw down 80 racks straight off the bat? Imagine going to my mum and be like, "Listen, mum, I've got this passion, I might not pass, but hear me out. Man must become a pilot." My mum would be like, My mum would be like, "Listen, you're going to tell me to put 80 grand down before we even see you pass." I'm thinking.
But you know what it is? As first generation, immigrants, I don't think we had that opportunity. Your parents already rooting their lives from one country to the other, so they probably wouldn't
rebuilt
have
it.
Exactly, and rebuilt it. So probably wouldn't have that kind of savings to you know, to that amount to allow you to kind of invest into that, you know, into that career path.
Absolutely. I mean, so I mean, it just goes to show. So then, I mean, between us, clearly a very creative output had money not being an option. So, on to question 3. So this one is an interesting one actually. That was sent in. So at GCSE, if you told your family you were studying performing arts or a creative course, what would they have said?
I studied all of those as like my GCSEs and A levels, and I think kind of the most interesting thing for me is that it actually wasn't my parents. It was somebody from the actual education system who kind of said the most detrimental positive thing. So obviously, I think when we went to college and university, it was a very transformative time. It was 2008 going into the 2010, 2 years later. Yeah. And for me, that was the Obama era. And as a drama student and someone who was feeling that was where my passion and my future was, I kind of had an epiphany where I was like, yo, if you look at politics, it is the greatest form of theatre. All of them man.
That's interesting.
That's true, because there's plenty of clowns right now, I'm telling you.
They're clowns, but all of them man are actors. All of them are
absolutely.
actors. They play a character in front of everyone.
Yeah.
So as a person who was studying drama, I was like, yo, I love politics, I love speaking in front of people. This is who I can be. And I remember specifically my drama teacher at A-level was like, yo, Felix, what do you want to do for university? I was like, yo, I want to study politics. And she was like, Felix, I truly believe that you're going to be great at it, but it will be the biggest waste of your talents if you ever went into that realm. And I was just like,
wow, that's a... I feel like they were very overly invested in your future there. Felix, please don't do it.
It's a bit strong. It's interesting, isn't it? I think from my parents' perspective, they were always quite academics. Yes. So maybe in that sense, you know, I always kind of grew up with that around me. So maybe I didn't think actually as creative arts as an option. Interestingly though, my sisters and my brothers went into kind of music industry, you know, filming and acting and that sort of thing.
And so then were you the firstborn? By any chance?
Middle child.
Middle child. Interesting. That's interesting because I was just thinking
so
like
about the trend.
So so it's quite interesting in the sense of like the reason I asked whether you're a firstborn child is 9 times out of 10 we kind of either kind of break the mold or as a firstborn child myself or we fall in line. Yeah. And so from my perspective as well, like I would have loved to, like back in the day when we used to dance, man, that was some of the best times of my life. And so if I had brought it up at the time, in our culture, I just truly believe at that time that performing arts or any kind of a creative industry had no real respect, in my God honest opinion, in the sense of our community didn't seem to value, it wasn't held up in the sense of someone who is really valued within the community, within the creative art space, did not hold any ground to a doctor, to a nurse, to a lawyer, to anything that our culture holds of esteem. Now, I think that culture holds these specific roles to esteem because in where we were brought up and where we kind of were born, these are the people who either save lives or make money or make or have legacies or make laws and change things like that. So then for us to go performing art, it was almost like shame on the family. Like, I can't say my son's a dancer.
I think deep down it just goes back to, for me, it goes back to having to migrate from one place to the other and start again. It's almost like they, you know, sacrificed everything, their friendships, their family, to, you know, uproot and you know, and actually give you the platform and give you the tools to, you know, to enhance. So it was kind of almost like this condition that because I've done this sacrifice for you, you need to. But make sure. But
it's mad though because the fact that they made that sacrifice and took us from a place where that might not have been an option to a place where that is an option to make money from and have a career path. Surely, if anything, that should have been the perfect time for us to get into creative arts and to get into performance.
I would add as well, actually, just that I think the older I've gotten, the more that kind of relationship with the family and the parents has changed and evolved. And actually now, if we were to have that same conversation, it'd be completely different, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? So I think at that time, maybe they just wanted to see that commitment and that dedication, rather than particularly, exactly what he did,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so that perfectly wraps up the kind of audience segment. So if you guys ever have any questions, please email us at hello@whydidn'tyouTellme.co.uk. We'll take any questions relative to the topic, and we'll release what topic we're going to do a couple of weeks prior, just so everybody has a bit of context. But yeah, thank you so much, and keep sending in your questions. In the theme of Why Didn't You Tell Me, if you could give your 16-year-old self career advice, what would it be?
I can make a start with that one. I'd probably say trust the process. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We were saying this, weren't we, about consistency?
Yeah. Trust the process and turn up.
Yeah.
Apply yourself every day. That's probably what I'd say. Because like you said, similar to you, kind of worked in bars part-time, did some youth work, worked in the wine industry, recruitment, and I kind of got in a place where I'm happy, in terms of what I do. So yeah, I'd probably say just trust the process and be consistent and turn up. Will probably be my key message.
And do you know what was interesting? The other day we were talking about it as well, and we talked about, and it links actually back to the bit that you said about taking year abroad and how in our degree we didn't take advantage of it. I tell you what, I'd tell myself to go back and do that. Make sure you take advantage of that year. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because now as individuals who are in positions to hire other people, when we're looking at CVs, like that year in industry, it actually shows so much tenacity and and passion for what it is that you want to do. And I guess is that the similar for yourself, Felix?
Yeah, I think for me, just kind of falling into that familiar line is enjoy your youth.
Yeah.
I think what we have done in terms of our culture and our society is that we've kind of put growth at the pedestal above everything else.
Yeah.
Where staying in the moment is not the one. And I'd say to my 16-year-old self is that, yes, your future is going to be there, but your moment will not last. And it is that emphasis to say that what you are experiencing right now will be that life story which gives credence to where you want to take your career. And if you don't take that moment to really taste it, to really feel it, to really be about it.
Rinse it even more. Rinse it. Because do you know what? Sometimes I think back and I go, you know what? I'll never change anything. But I wish, if I could give my 16-year-old self, is actually milk it. Because I think as well, like on a similar note of growth, Felix, is that at 16, you're so excited to be 21. You're so excited to be 25 or whatever that you rush through everything. Everything is like, and then you get to 25 and then it's interesting because you run through 16, 17, 18 and you're like, yeah. And then you hit 21 and you're like, whoa, this is moving really quick, boom, 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 boom. 25 and you're like, oh my God, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, backpedal. And it is exactly that in the sense of like, rinse it for everything that you've got because youth, time is on your side.
Do you know what? To add to that as well, I'd probably say try and find something that you love.
Yeah.
Because I think even though maybe we were talking about creative arts and we maybe didn't quite end up there, we actually do the core of what we do is still kind of working with people, kind of showcasing, I guess, if you like. So I think it's finding really to the core what you enjoy and what you love, and actually thinking what's the best career for you. Because I think sometimes, you might be a good maths student, but actually you don't, you're not engaged, you don't get excited by it. So what gets you up, gets you up in the morning? Find your why, basically.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah. And like, even probably like 16-year-olds now, I'd probably say it now more than ever, a passion can be a money-making career in the sense of how many kids are we seeing now on TikTok making hundreds of thousands of pounds an hour? How many people are selling who are passionate about sneakers are doing reselling? How many, or even like customs or whatever else it may be? How many people do we see in the podcast industry right now, exactly as we're doing, who have taken their career paths in, whether it's giving advice, guidance, or being that kind of person that kind of you can shine a light on is inspiring, etc. So now more than ever, any 16-year-old, I'd say, you know what? Don't, even gamers, like how many times our mum tell us put that PlayStation down, don't play games, do your homework. Listen, pick it up if you've got a passion in it and you truly believe you could put all your energy into it, do it. If it's playing the piano, if it's playing the xylophone, be the best xylophone player that's been about.
Just turn up every day.
Consistency.
Apply yourself,
Just like the gym. We talked about it the other day, isn't it? The gym isn't actually difficult. The hard bit is being consistent.
I gotta say, turning up is difficult.
Solid, man.
And I think through all of the things that we have said, for obviously we're speaking about our young 16-year-old selves now as being, you know, in mid late 20s. But I'd say to the young people right now is that find your smile. I think, especially when we're thinking about COVID, when we're thinking about the times that we're living in, the hardest thing to do right now is to smile.
Yeah.
And to find your smile, to find what you're passionate about, to find your own why. Because I think what society does is try to group you into a group why.
Yeah.
But you were born an individual.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a sermon right now.
I'm like, preach. Hallelujah. I'm like, say it again for the people at the back. Excuse me, young lady, can you put your phone down? The pastor's speaking.
He's got this intonation, isn't it?
Find your why. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, take my money. How much? I'm like, you take contactless?
Contactless on the weekend.
Yeah. No,
It's cash.
but it's nail on the head, isn't it? It is very much that. In a place where there is no direction, whether it be from our government or from life in general, I think that this has kind of swiped our ankles, this situation at the moment this year. And you are completely nail on the head in terms of finding your why and finding that drive and finding your smile. Is realistically, if it makes you happy,
and don't be afraid to fail. That's the last one.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Man, I'm still failing.
I think we're examples of we've tried things, try something else, stop, and to just keep trying. You've got time on your hat on your on your side. So
I was reading a book. It was called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I recommend that. I recommend that. I'm reading. I say I'm reading it. I am definitely audiobooking it. But yeah, absolutely. And so what they talk about there as well is that exact same thing in terms of making mistakes and failing, and that actually life is a series of mistakes where your latest mistake is better than your last mistake. That's it. You're just correcting a never-ending series of mistakes, and so once you come to terms with that, it means that you can then go, okay, I can accept failure because this failure means I'm closer to the goal that I'm getting to. Yeah.
But also, I think it's also that book. What's great about it is also it's about giving a fuck about things that actually matter.
Putting your energy
that
into
value, your family. Your partners. You got a partner.
Like what were we like with friends? How much value? Do you know what? At 16, we need to all say that we put far too much energy into people who just wanted to take energy from us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about determining what things to kind of add value to your life, your family, your friends, your job if it's your job, whatever it is. Yeah, your passions.
I mean, to be honest, I think that's a perfect one to end on, to be honest, in the sense of find your smile, find your passion, stay consistent, and kind of find your why. And that is, to be honest, and also definitely check out that book as well, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I could not recommend it more.
The audiobook is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's the one. And have a look at that. But yeah, perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Why Didn't You Tell Me? We just want to make a quick shout out first to our sponsor, Northern Monk. Thank you so much for putting us in a position where we can speak about being young black men, loud and proud. So they produce absolutely incredible beers, so make sure you check those out. We'll put a link in the bio somewhere. But apart from that,
so guys, like our social media pages. We really want to hear from you and make sure that you are part of our little community right here.
Make sure you rate and review the podcast. It will help people find us.
We want you to like, subscribe into all of our social media channels. So that is our YouTube, our Facebook, our Instagram, and I got that wrong.
All of them. We'll go again. Well, just making up fake
Instagram. Wow.
Strike one. And make sure you rate and review the podcast. It will help us find. Oh, fuck's sake.
Amateurs.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I could do a single podcast. What if we took 3 Thierrys and we just tripled?
My days. Right, serious.
Here we go now, serious.